says in John chapter 10, verse 10. How many of you know that verse by heart? Don't look into the Bible. John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, to destroy, and to kill. Steal, destroy, and to kill. Then he says, that is the thief's agenda, Satan. Then he says immediately, but I have come so that you may have life, and life in abundance. So the agenda of Satan is to destroy our life. The agenda of Christ, the manifesto of Christ, is to give us life. I have come so that we may have life. Not any life, but life in abundance. Abundant life. And so if you think of a theme running through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, you see this theme of life standing out. Now, the question is, how do we live this life? This is not an easy life that we live. We pass through different seasons in life. From the time we are born until we die, we pass through different seasons in life. I want to concentrate on various seasons in life that God allows us to go through. Different seasons in life. Seasons in life that God allows us to go through. And I want to concentrate on 2 Timothy. Paul's last letter to Timothy. Paul says to Timothy that there are different stages, different seasons in life. There is a season for us to wait sometimes. There is a season for us to prepare sometimes. Moses was in the desert for 40 years before God used him to deliver the people of Israel. You know that story. Moses' life. First 40 years in Egypt. Then the next 40 years on the mountains, taking care of his father-in-law's sheep. And the last 40 years, delivering the people of Israel from Egypt to Canaan. Before God could use him, he was in the training on the mountains for 40 years. Jesus was silent for 30 years for the 3.5 years of his ministry. I often say, people like me and some of our friends go to seminary or Bible college for 3 years to do the rest of their ministry. But Jesus was in training or silent period for how many years? 30 years. For how many years of ministry? For 3 years of ministry, he prepared for how many years? 30 long years. Paul, after his conversion, after he met Jesus on the way to Damascus, he was in the desert for 3 years before he started his ministry. Immediately he did not start his ministry. He was waiting. The apostles, the disciples, were with Jesus for 3.5 years. He was preparing them for the ministry to come later in their life. A soldier is trained, rigorously in the field, in the battleground, before he can really go into the battlefield and fight there. A doctor or an engineer, anyone who wants to take up anything goes through that training period. So there is a season in our life to be with God, to be trained, and to face our ministry. And that is what I'm going to share with you. Paul says to Timothy, Timothy, these are different seasons in life that I have gone through and you will go through. Number 1, a season of affliction. 2 Timothy 1:12. 2 Timothy 1:12. That is why I am suffering as I am. Yet this is no cause for shame, because I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him until that day. He says, the reason I am suffering is for Christ. You know the life of Paul. From the time he met Christ on the way to Damascus until the very last day of his life, martyred for Christ during the time of Emperor Nero, till that day, he was a person who went through so many afflictions in life. Friends, listen to me. This is bound to happen in our life and ministry. But please know that in all those difficult situations, you are not alone. When I read about Joseph in Egypt, you know the amount of suffering that Joseph went through before he was elevated to be second to the Pharaoh. The amount of suffering. If you read 39, 40, 37, those chapters of Genesis, one recurring word, I have noted that in my Bible, but God was with him. But God was with him. You underline that. In several places you will see that. If you are a child of God, I want to assure you this morning that you are not alone. Yes, he will allow you to go through afflictions in life, but you are not alone. He is with you. Moses, before God sent him to Egypt, he was taking care of his father-in-law's sheep. And you know, when God called him, he showed him an imagery. What was the imagery? He saw fire in the bush. There is fire in the bush, but the bush is not burned out. What does that mean? That was God showing Moses, there is affliction among my people in Egypt, but they are not burned out. You're with me? Sometimes God allows fire to come to your life, not to burn you, not to finish you off, but to purify you. Fire is not only used for destroying, but fire is used also for what? Purifying. It all depends on our attitude. Sometimes the fire that comes into your life or the affliction, our attitude matters a lot. You can either become a victim or a victor. Listen to me. I can either become a victim of the affliction or a victor. I can either become a winner or a loser. A success or a failure. All depends on my attitude that I take towards that affliction in my life. Yes, God, I know I am passing through this difficult time, but you are with me. I will overcome. Someone said, tough time do not last, but tough people last. You heard this? Tough time do not last, but tough people last. Be a tough person. I will not give up. I will go ahead. Second season, God allows you to go through a season of solitude. A season of solitude. Chapter 1, verse 15. He says, Timothy, you know that everyone in the province of Asia has deserted me, including those two friends mentioned there. They have deserted me. I am all alone. Everyone in Asia has deserted me. A time of solitude. No one to stand with me. No one to give me a helping hand. I am all by myself. Like Apostle John in the island of Patmos. All by himself. What can he see? He can see only some skeleton of those other people who came before him. Skeletons are all around. And it says, when the day of the Lord came, he was filled by the Spirit. All by himself. But on the day of the Lord, John the Apostle was filled by the Spirit. And you see the result of that is the book of Revelation. Solitude, alone, no one with him. But that was the time he was in the Spirit. Difficult? You will tell me, Pastor, this is difficult. I know it is difficult all by ourselves. But with God, it is possible. You are not alone. Lo, I am with you. Carry this message with you for this week. When you feel left alone, no one to support you, please know that you are not alone. Jesus says, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I am with you always. I am with you always. A third season God allows us to go through. 2 Timothy 2:4. A season of warfare. A season of warfare. In verse 3 it says, join with me in suffering like a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No one serving as a soldier gets entangled in civilian affairs, but rather tries to please his commanding officer. Paul says to Timothy, Timothy, you are a soldier. You are a soldier in the battlefield. You are in a warfare. Friends, please know this. We all are in a spiritual warfare. A spiritual warfare. From the time you wake up in the morning, till you go to bed, till you sleep, there is a warfare going on within you. If you are a real child of God, that warfare will be there. What is that spiritual warfare? Your flesh will tell you to do certain things that doesn't please God. There is a battle between the flesh and the spirit. Any pastor, any believer, how much ever holy you are, you have this battle in your heart. If you tell me, Pastor, I don't have that battle, I want to see you after this service. There is that battle. That spiritual battle. Whether you win the battle or lose the battle depends on whom are you feeding every day. If I am feeding my flesh or if I am feeding my spirit within me. If I have a fight with a child, a 5-year-old child, I am 60 now. If I am having a physical fight, a 60-year-old man like V.B. Thomas Strong and a 5-year-old child, who should naturally win? But in a spiritual battle, it is not the age that matters. It is the factor, whom am I feeding each day? If my inner person is strong. This morning, before I came to the church, I got up, I tried to get up early morning and to do my morning meditation and all that. And then, at least it took half an hour for me to go to the washroom, get my bath, dress myself, put this coat, ironing them and all that. It took almost half an hour. For what? So that when I stand here, I will appear good before you. A pleasing personality. How much ever the other fact is, But I am dressing myself so that when I appear before you, the question is this. Yes, V.V. Thomas, you did all that to have that physical appearance. How I prepared my inner person to come here. How do I prepare? How do I bath my inner person? Is this. Before I take bath, before I prepare myself, I prepare my inner person. I take my Bible, sit with it, like Dr. Jacob said, not just reading, meditating, asking God to speak to me, then kneeling before God. Lord, I am going to that church. Bless me there, Lord. Many a times we come to the church physically looking so good, but inside there is a vacuum. Inside there is a vacuum. I urge you, my brothers and sisters, prepare your inner person every day, not only on a Sunday morning, every single day, to win that spiritual battle. The next season that God allows us to go through, the 2 Timothy 2:15. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, who correctly handles the word of truth. A season, I call it a season of learning. Of course, this season of learning is not a one-time season, okay? It is something that goes through. I started my studies at SABC in 1981 when I was only about 18 years old. I joined SABC, Bangalore. And then I went to different seminaries and did all my studies. But does that mean my learning is over? No. Learning continues. Someone said, no man, no woman is too old to learn. T-O-O, too old to learn. That's why Paul says in the same letter, in chapter 4, in one of the verses he says, when you come, bring my parchments, bring my books. Where is he writing this letter? He is in the prison now. But Timothy, when you come to meet me, bring those parchments, those books. Where is he now? In the prison, about to die. But he says, I still want to learn. Learning continues. A season of learning. The next season, a season of suffering. A season of suffering. Chapter 2, verse 12. It says, here is a trustworthy saying, if we died with him, we will also live with him. If we endure with him, we will also reign with him. If we disown him, he will also disown us. Enduring, suffering. This is, of course, again, part and parcel of our life. Today, this concept of suffering is far from our preaching. I hear in many churches, pastors speaking about prosperity. I'm not against it. God will bless you. God will prosper you. That is his job. He will do that. In some places also I have heard some people preach a gospel of poverty. You cannot have a suit. You cannot have a shoe. You have to be so simple. Friends, listen to me. It is neither a gospel of prosperity nor a gospel of poverty, but it is a gospel of contentment. It is a gospel of, I am content with what I have. That is what Paul says in Philippians. I have more than what I need. I have learned to be content with what I have. So it is not a gospel of prosperity or poverty, but a gospel of contentment. A season of suffering. I went to SABC in 1981. I told you this. I was in OM from 79 to 81. 2 years working in North India, almost every state. Then after 2 years of training in OM, I wanted to study. I went to SABC. No sponsor. No one to support. I went purely by faith. Some people say I went by faith. This is true. I went by faith. I did not know who was going to pay my fees. And in SABC those days, there were 3 categories of fees. If you pay 300 rupees every month, then you don't have to do any duty. You are free. Then there is a second category, 200 per month. You have to do 2 hours of duty. Then 125 per month. 125 rupees only, 1981. Then you have to do 4 hours of duty every day. I fell into the second category, 200 rupees per month. I wrote to my father and said, Dad, I'm going to SABC. And this is what is my fees. He said, Mone, my salary is 350 per month from the Milk Supply Society where he was a supervisor. 350 was not a bad amount at that time. But I cannot give you 200 out of that. Including you, I have 6 children and 5 of them are with me. My wife, your mother. I have to feed them. I cannot send you that 200. Your portion I'll send every month 50 rupees. He divided 350 into, 7. So he said, he promised me 50 rupees. So with the 50 rupees promise, I went. 1981 June. June went by. July came. August came. Brother T.P. James, late T.P. James, sir, he was the bursar. He called me to the office and said, V.V. Thomas, our book shows that you have not paid your fees. 600 rupees now. You pay the fees or be prepared to leave the campus because there are people in the waiting list. That gave me a shock. From that day, I went every day to the chapel after 10:30 in the night. 10:30 library's time is over. Everyone will go to the room. I will go to the chapel. And on the chapel pulpit, I'll kneel until 1 o'clock. Sometimes my roommate will come in search of me and says, Vivi, come, enough. But I was saying, Lord, I would not want to go from my SABC in a shameful manner. Provide for me, Lord. And one Saturday in August, I took a bus from Kothannur to Lingarajpuram. OM office was in St. Thomas Town. I went to that office to see my friends. I was working with OM. So someone said, Vivi, there is a letter for you from Bombay. I said, for me, a letter after 3 months of leaving OM? Yes, Vivi, there is a letter. I thought I'll show you that letter. I have laminated it. It is here with me. 5/8/1981. And this letter is from Alfie Franks in Bombay. Someone told him from the OM office in Bangalore that our V.V. Thomas, ex-OMer, is not able to pay his fees in SABC. He is about to be sent out. So Alfie Chayan wrote a letter to his friend, one Ravi Maharaj in Switzerland. And Ravi says, V.V. Thomas, I have heard about your struggles at SABC. This is Alfie Chayan's letter. And he says, I have recommended your name to Ravi Maharaj. He is going to pay your fees for 4 years. This is that letter. I will never destroy it. Laminated and kept it with me. You take this word, go after him. Suffering will be there, but it is not forever. He will provide. As I was preparing this message, the Lord said, carry this letter to the church. You can read it later if you want. God will take care of you. Suffering may be there, but I was so overwhelmed when I got this letter. And I have always kept this in my file. When I publish my life story, this will go into that book. Suffering is there. I have just 2 more minutes. I'm not going to finish all the 10 points. You have it there. Then another season, a season of carnal fleeing. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22. Flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Flee youthful lust. Friends, here, this is not just for the youth. Whatever age you are, there is a chance for you to be tempted. We need to continue to flee. If you tell me, Pastor, no, I don't have this problem. Even if we are a woman or a man, all of us have this. How do we overcome this? We need to continue to flee. Like Job, who said, I have made a covenant with my eyes. Make a covenant with your eyes. Make a covenant with your heart. That when I open my computer or cell phone, if anything appears there, I will just wipe it. I will not allow my eyes to enjoy it. Church, flee youthful lust. Just mentioning, next one. A Season of Contention, 23 and 24. Standing for the faith. Yes, that is a season. That season appears all the time. You need to continue to stand for faith. Not to get into arguments, but standing for your faith. When somebody asks you, why are you a Christian? You should be able to give that person an answer. You should not say, well, my parents were Christians, that's why I'm a Christian. You should have a reason to answer. Standing for your faith. A season of contention. Next one, a season of persecution. We are going through a season of persecution. Of course, in Bangalore, by the grace of God, we are not facing that. But as I preached you today in the church, there are several churches being destroyed. Thank God that we don't have that. But please do not think it will not come. It can come to us also. Be prepared. This is a season that sometimes we go through. And then, next one, a season of disloyalty. Paul says, everyone has left me. They must left me, loved this world and left me. You know, people who said they will stand with you, they may not stand with you. Be prepared for that also. Friends who said, I will die with you, may desert you. But again, as I said in the beginning, God will not leave you. And finally, the last season, that is a season of supernatural intervention. You know, God coming by himself into your situation. Paul says in 2 Timothy 4:18, let me read that and close. 4:18 he says, the Lord will rescue me from every evil attack and he will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. In 17 it says, but the Lord stood by my side and gave me the strength so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and all the Gentiles might hear. The Lord standing by your side. The Lord standing by your side. Friends, you will tell me, there are so many sitting here, you will come and tell me, Pastor, I have experienced supernatural intervention of God in my life. If you have gone through this season in your life, if you have gone through any one of these seasons or multiple seasons, multiple stages that I have shared with you, I want to assure you that is to make you more like him. Today, as I stand here, I have gone through these various seasons in life. And the Lord is still making me like him. I'm far away. I need to continue to go back to him.